Hi, this is a video demonstration of how I use Starry Night High School in my classroom. Now, I do pay for this software. I bought it. It's about $150 for this version. There are free versions available. Stellarium is one of them, and there are other online resources now that you can use, so you can do this same exact lesson but not pay the price for this. I also use another program called Join.me, and it's another program I pay for. I think it's about $120 a year. It's a subscription that allows me to send my screen to the kids' laptops so they can actually see what I'm seeing. I project this on my big screen, but then I have full control over what the kids are seeing. Now, I use this to demonstrate the night sky. The night sky isn't something that's easy to teach in a classroom or in the day, and a lot of kids nowadays have no idea what's in the night sky. So what I do is I first start out and I just kind of introduce the software, and I allow them to move around, and it gives a panoramic view, 360-degree view, and I tell them that the landscape and the clouds are just part of the program. It's not actually what they're looking at. The night sky is actually set for where we live, and that's Victorville, California. You can also look up, you can look down, you can look all over. But during the daytime, this isn't a very advantageous view, so I can switch it to nighttime. And what I do is I like to start the kids out in the northern sky. So I'm going to pan around to the north. And the first thing I do is I show the kids how the stars move in the night sky. I'm going to scroll back here a little bit so we get a better view. And what I do is this program allows me to speed up time. So if I speed up time, you can actually see the stars moving. And I ask the kids, what star is not seeming to move? And they point to this star right here, which is Polaris, and Polaris happens to sit directly over the North Pole. And that's a good introduction. And then I go into how do we find Polaris? And I tilt the view up a little bit, and we find the Big Dipper. Now the Big Dipper sits right here, and the Big Dipper can be used to find Polaris. Now the Big Dipper is where I start at. It's the first constellation that most kids learn, and it's really easy to find, and it's up all year round, which is really good for finding constellations. And now there's some options on this program where I can bring up some lines, and it shows off the actual the asterisms. And we can point out now the Big Dipper, and I show them that you can look at Star Doobie and Star Merrick, and you create a line that comes right down here to find Polaris, and Polaris is the tip of the Little Dipper. And then we talk about how water from the Big Dipper can imaginarily flow into the Little Dipper and vice versa. And as long as you can transfer the water, you're looking at the right shapes. But now the Big Dipper and Little Dipper are not true constellations, they're asterisms. So I switch to the constellation view, and this actually shows the constellations. And the first one we talk about is Ursa Major. And with this, I can bring up a label so we can see what all these constellations are. And I can tell some mythological stories about Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, and they're real interesting. What I do, though, is I have the kids draw out this constellation. In their notebooks, they divide their page into 4 equal quadrants. One of those quadrants would be for Ursa Major, and I can zoom in, and they can now draw Ursa Major. What's another nice view, to emphasize that it is the Great Bear, I can bring up illustrations, and now they can see what these constellations represent. And I don't like to keep that on too long. It really clutters up the screen. I like to keep it on that. So we draw Ursa Major, and then in the next one we draw Ursa Minor as the Little Bear. And there's a really great mythological story of why these bears have tails, and I usually tell that. And then there's Draco is here. Draco is also part of the story, and it's really interesting. But I'm really concentrating on Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. And we go into what good is this for astronomers? And astronomers really don't care about the constellations, the stories, the pictures. What they care about are the borders. So what astronomers have done, and you can bring that up, that's what's nice about this, the boundaries, these are the boundaries of the constellation. So it turns the night sky into a map. And so if I ever needed to point someone to a certain location in the sky, I could tell them to look through Ursa Major, and they know where to look in the night sky. And again, that's a little cluttered, so I'm going to remove that. Well, now, I teach this typically in April, and in April you still have some constellations in the southern sky that they can look. Now, the southern sky changes a lot quicker than the northern sky, so I always start in the north, and then now we're going to move to the south. And the time that we're at right now, which is about 10:15, is a little too late. So I'm going to scroll back, and I can change the time. I'm going to move this to about 8:30. By switching it to 8:30, that's still a realistic time for the kids to be up. And I need to move a little bit over to the southwest. And the next constellation we talk about is Orion. And you can bring up again the illustration of Orion, and the kids can see that Orion is often holding a club. Sometimes he's holding a sword, and then sometimes here he's holding either a bow and arrow or a shield. And now I'll remove that because that's too cluttered. So the kids then draw Orion. And then their final paper, or their final quadrant I should say, they draw is Canis Major. Now I teach them how to do star hopping. And with star hopping, you take the 3 stars of Orion's belt that are right here, and you just slide over to the left, and you bring up Sirius. Sirius is the dog star. It's also the symbol of the Sirius XM satellite. And what the kids find interesting is the character Sirius in Harry Potter changes into a dog. So if we bring up again the illustration, we can see that Canis Major is a dog, and the kids get a big kick out of the fact that Sirius Black in the stories turns into a dog. All right, and you can go on and you can do more of these constellations. I stick with 4. I don't want to overwhelm the kids, but then there's a nice treat. You can also use this program. I can change this software into a spacecraft. So now we're going to fly up above the Earth, and the constellations now are all around us. Now what I can do is I can do a search feature. And so we talk about different planets in our solar systems. So now if we wanted to, we could fly out to, and I'm going to remove the constellations. They're just too cluttered, and it really gets in the way. So those are removed. So now we're back into the night sky. And so if you wanted to look at, say, Jupiter, I can click that, and it'll find Jupiter, and now it'll actually fly out to Jupiter. And the kids can take a look at it. And they have a lot of fun asking, can we look at this? Can we look at that? And they all want to look at Uranus. That's always a big favorite. Now, I can zoom in, and they can actually see what Jupiter would look like. And then we talk about the Galilean moons, and I can get quite close. And we can do different planets. And once we've done all the planets, usually the next day we'll move on and we'll start looking at deep sky objects. So we'll look at the Messier catalog. So those are identified as M and then a number, and I just tell the kids how to do it, and they search on those on their Chromebooks. And so we could look at other objects now that are further than the stars. So it gives them a good idea that the stars that they see in the sky are part of our galaxy, but there are objects that you can also see that are further away. And one of them is called the Andromeda Galaxy, which is actually the only galaxy you can see with the naked eye. It looks more like a fuzzy object. But now by zooming in, this is the Andromeda Galaxy, which in about 7 billion years, the Milky Way, our galaxy, will collide with. So it's a nice little activity. This program does require you to learn the features. There's some settings that are ideal for the classroom. So there's an investment in that, and you really have to spend time learning it. But again, you don't have to spend big money on this. There are free versions. I like this version particularly for its user interface. I like it. It's pretty clean. But I think this is a good way to teach kids the motion of the stars the anatomy of the night sky, which is not something they're going to get in a classroom during the day. And at nighttime, most kids are inside a house watching TV, doing homework, so they don't really get a chance to see the night sky. And along with light pollution now, some cities don't see any of this, so this is a nice treat for them to get a good sense of what's up in the night sky. So I thank you very much for listening, and that concludes.